Hi everyone. I wanted to do a post and talk about, the struggles and stuff of, being a single mum going through such a terrible time. This was like one of the main things that was my main concern going through my cancer journey was obviously my daughter Isla. So as you all know, it is just me and Isla. I'm a single mum. Dad's very, very much in her life, by the way, but as for like at home, it is just me and Isla. So obviously, he's going through something like this. For the first time in my life, I had to be really, really selfish in terms of, taking that time thoroughly for myself. Like my head was just nowhere else. Like all my energy and all my time were literally on myself and getting through what I needed to get through. So obviously along the way, people started to fall off, or people's heads fell off because I didn't have the time for them anymore, or whatever. You come across so many different avenues along this journey, and you see things thoroughly, and you generally begin to see things for exactly what they are. Sometimes it's not the nicest experience, but it is what it is. That's life. Do you know what I mean? Some things you may not have noticed before because you've never been in a position to notice these things, and then as soon as you're in that position, things become very, very clear, like crystal diamante clear. Do you know what I mean? So, but for me, the thing that got me down the most was obviously the dynamic between me and Isla, because my patience was non-existent. I was very snappy, very stressed, and like obviously trying to keep a lid on that for the sake of her, it was very, very difficult because, to be honest, I don't know how I've done it. I'm not going to sit here and say it was easy because it wasn't. For me as well, the type of person that I am, and obviously the type of anxiety that I have, I go through life harbouring a lot of guilt. So if I do, like if I feel guilty for near enough most things that I do, So obviously when I was being that way, and some days I was difficult to be around, it would eat me up for days, and then that was making me sick too. And it's a very, very vicious circle, and it's very, very, very hard to get out of. I still now don't know how to deal with the guilt that comes with my anxiety. So that's something that I'm working on behind the scenes, but it got me down a lot, having Isla in that situation and having to have to see me like that. And I mean, I shout at Isla all the time, don't get me wrong, I'm not like one of these mums who don't ever shout at me kids, because I have and I'm quite loud, do you know what I mean? I'll screaming and I shout and I'm just loud. But obviously it moved into sort of a slightly different, where I was just down, and it couldn't have been nice for it to be around. Not that it ever affected her, because you wouldn't even tell that she, her mum was going through that from her. She handled it as well as I handled it. She did. She is so just similar to me. It's unreal how much she is like me. Do you know what I mean? But so, I set up little things like I done thoughts and feelings most nights. So we would lie on the couch or we would lie in bed, and I would ask her to tell me what her thoughts and feelings were, and how she was feeling. And I wanted to make it very, very I wanted to make a comfortable scenario for her where she knows that she can come and speak to me and tell me how she's feeling, even if it's slightly negative towards me. I want to make sure that she felt comfortable having these conversations with me and telling me, you know what, mummy, I didn't like the way you did this, mummy, or I didn't like the way you done that, or, that made me feel this way. And as hard as it was, to listen to it, because obviously the guilt, like I keep saying, the guilt that comes with, for me personally anyway, with when I have to be like that with her, it's horrible, do you know what it is? And it got me down loads, and I was panicking, thinking, is this going to affect their development? Is this going to cause something now that's going to take it into a later life? And it was just I mean, I'm just an overthinker like that anyway. That's my anxiety. There's nothing I can do about that. And because it was so heightened around these times, I felt like I was just trapped in my own thoughts all the time with certain things. It was horrible. But, I'm glad that I was able to remove myself out of myself sometimes, and then be able to do those things with it as well, if that makes sense. Like, I was very, very aware of how I was being, and obviously the effects that it could have had on it. So I was doing everything I could to stop that as well, do you know what I mean? As well as being this, like, person struggling, going through cancer and being so stressed and being moody and snapping and having no patience, to then making sure I was on top of this as well. So, we'd sit and talk, and it was just a really nice thing for us. So obviously that's just a little bit of advice that I would like to pass on to anybody going through the same thing or things similar, where they feel like what they're going through is having an effect on their kids. Just create a safe environment for your children, where they feel safe and strong enough to come and speak to you about these things without being shouted at, without being judged. And that's pretty much what I've done, and that's how we got through it. And now I'm just so grateful, because my patience is coming back loads, and everything's calmed down, and I'm able to, have that relationship with it again, because, I dote on it. I always have doted on it. We've got a really, really, really tight bond. And I think I was worrying and panicking that bond was going to leave because of what I was going through. And, I should have had a bit more faith in myself, because that kid, the thing with children is, if you show them love, consistent, unconditional love, they can go through anything, like, strong. If they know they've got that love, you hit a rough patch, it doesn't matter, because they love you regardless. Do you know what I mean? And that is what saved us, was the fact that she knew she was that loved, and she had that love. Like, from the day she's been born, I tell her, I couldn't even count on my hands the amount of times I tell her I love her. I tell her how proud I am of her. I tell her how much she means to me every single day. And I think this is very, very important with building our children up. They need to know that they are loved. They need to know these things. It secures them, because, they don't really they haven't really got the mind or the maturity to think things through the way adults have. So they just go off feelings, and love is the most effective, most amazing feeling you can put onto your child. And that's what I've always done with her from the day she was born. I have always put Isla first, no matter what, no matter how much I am inconvenienced, because that's what you do as a parent. You're always second best to your kids, that's it. Do you know what I mean? I've never been a parent where I'd put myself above my child, never. I'm not like that, ever. So I think I hope that these are all good things. I'm trying to get my words out the best way that I can, sorry. Because I don't plan my talks, and I just like to come on and just say things, whatever's coming into my head. That's what I like to do. So I hope that I'm making sense. But yeah, Isla's loved unconditionally, and I made sure that even though we were going through a rough patch, there were things in place for her. And, I made sure that was like one of my number one priorities, because out of everything, this is the stuff that got me down the most, was, panicking on, like, how is she going to be affected by what's going on? And I was worried because I wasn't able to give her as much attention as she's used to getting off me. Don't get me wrong, she still gets loads, but because of our dynamic, I'm very, very, very attentive to her. So it was hard not being able to give her as much attention as she's used to getting, and I was panicking, but I was probably over panicking as well. Do you know what I mean? Again, my anxiety. So we've got through it. She didn't she wasn't affected. I think maybe there was a little stage where the behaviour went a little bit like, pushing the limits, and the behaviour was a little bit, and it was hard for me because I wanted to shout at her, but sometimes I knew, like, don't shout at her because, she's going through it too. So I had to also always keep that in mind, even though I was going through a very, very selfish time. And to be honest, it was hard for me to be selfish because I am not a naturally selfish person at all. I always and have always put everyone above myself. And don't get me wrong, moving forward in life now, I won't be doing that anymore to a degree. Do you know what I mean? I know that I do have to put myself first in times that I do need to put myself first, and I will not feel guilty for that anymore. In terms of Isla, she will always come first. She will be the only person who comes first, inconvenienced, whatever. Will always be that person. But moving forward with other people around me, I need to know when it is important to put myself first. And, you don't have to explain. I've learned that you don't have to explain yourself to people. You don't have to explain to anybody why you're doing those things. Do you know what I mean? Because I've always been that person who always, I have to explain myself. And, I always inconvenience myself all the time for people. And I think moving forward, that can only happen when it needs to happen. You know what I mean? So it's all about finding the balance in life. So that's obviously what I've been doing. But I'm just glad that Isla, she's so special. Like, she handled that like a boss, the same way I handled the cancer like a boss. She handled the situation like a boss. She's just a really, really amazing child, and I'm just so proud of her. And I'm going to obviously spend the next couple of months making up for everything that she's been through. And obviously that's a bit hard now because we're going through a lockdown. But once the lockdown's lifted, there's plenty of adventures in store for her. And I tell her every day how proud I was of her for the way she's, looked after mummy, and how she's, been such a good girl through the whole thing. And, she has her moments, but she's a good kid. And I come down hard on her sometimes. That she's an amazing child. She's not naughty. She's cheeky. And she doesn't listen, and she pushes her boundaries. In that sense, it is a bit like having a teenager, because she's a very, very old 5. And it's weird because I can see how much she's grown. I can see the growth in her as well. Like I said, I feel like I was in a bubble, and then I just snapped out the bubble. And all of a sudden, I had this grown 5-year-old. Like, I feel like the experience has really made her grow too, in a good way. So it's all about rebuilding now, and, putting a lot of time and energy into mine and her relationship. And I feel like the lockdown's been good for that. So because she hasn't been going to school and stuff, and we've been having a lot of time together, it's really brought us back to the place we were before, cancer even existed in this household. So that makes me feel really, really good. But yeah, it's just very important to, put little certain things in place. And that's what I done with her. I made sure that we had certain things put in place so that she wasn't suffering too much through the journey. The thoughts and feelings was amazing. So that's something that should be within the household anyway. I personally feel that's something that we will always continue to do now. I want to know her thoughts and feelings as a child, because I think as kids, you're not really heard as a child, are you? And especially not around adults. And I think it's very, very important that we do let our children be heard, because we don't know what's going on in their mind. And, we don't know how they're perceiving certain things. And I think it's very, very important that we know, and we do find out what is going on in our child's mind. And, we build on things from there. So that was just the way I dealt with it. And I hope that anyone watching this can get a little bit of, can be inspired by that maybe. And like I say, I will come on and talk about all these things a little bit more in depth now that I am getting better. So that's what we done in our household, me and Isla. You know, I sat and listened to everything that was going on with her, and we just dealt with it. And, you know, we've come out the other end stronger, and I couldn't be more happier. I'm just so excited now for our little adventures, and hopefully give Isla the best life that she deserves, and obviously look after mummy. So, you know, it's very important that a child's, you know, parents are also in a good place, because a happy, healthy parent equals a happy, healthy child. So it's very, very important that, you know, they both come in well together. I can't give you a heads up, but you know what I mean. So yeah, so I hope that this video can, you know, inspire others and bring a little bit of clarity to people who may be going through the same experiences, or maybe just need a little bit of you know, direction on what to do, things like that. So yeah, hope you all enjoy, and I'll speak to you all soon.